Today we are getting a very special look at a very interesting car. This is the 2024 Kia EV9. Like the EV6 that preceded this, it's a full battery electric SUV, and it is certainly an SUV. This is a 7-seater or 6, depending on your configuration, and it does just this fabulous job of blending futuristic EV styling with that classic SUV shape. Now let's start at the front and really get a good look at this. First off, I think that some modern Kias with the new logo, it looks a little disjointed. It doesn't seem like the car really fits the logo. But on the EV9, it's like this was custom tailored to this design. You know, it has these sharp points and these strong character lines. So I think the logo really works well here. I also love on this one, we have this digital light pattern here and the headlights themselves. I mean, look at all those individual LEDs. Looks terrific. It also has, well, there's not really a grille on this vehicle, at least not one in the traditional sense, and that's because it's an EV, and I love how electric vehicles, they open up some styling avenues to allow you to change how a grille is supposed to look. Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Do you like the face of this car, or do you wish it had, you know, a big gaping grille like so many other big SUVs do? Now, down the side, well, I mean, you can really see the length of this thing just standing here. But despite its size, it's actually pretty slippery. Now, it has a smoothed out under tray to make sure there's not quite as much turbulence flying under the car when you're heading down the highway. And that means it's a little more aerodynamic, a little more fuel efficient or battery efficient. How would you describe that? It also has specially designed wheels. Those are supposed to be a little more aerodynamic. The wing mirrors and even the door handles, they're ejected right now, but when the car is moving or when it's locked, these slide in and become flush with the doors. I love how that looks. Now at the rear, you're gonna notice it is, well, it's like surprisingly simple. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a lot going on back here. And you could say this, the taillights, I mean, that really gives them space to be the star of the show. I love how it has this kind of triple point design here. I really want to slam on the brakes and really see how everything lights up. Again, we've got the great looking logo, but if you're buying a car that is this size, something tells me you're doing it because you need to fit a bunch of people or a bunch of things in here. So let's climb inside, take a look at the EV9's interior. Well, inside the Kia EV9, the first thing that jumps out to me is that Kia set out to make a big, family-friendly electric vehicle, and at least in terms of big and, well, family-friendly, it looks like they are on the right path. Now, there are some materials in here that don't feel super premium, particularly given that this is the most premium vehicle that Kia offers. Specifically, the doors, they're not super plush. This whole center console, there's a lot of plastic on it. And then down here, this is also a little plasticky. But there's a reason for all of this. Kia is using more sustainable materials in the EV9 than pretty much any other automaker in the segment. So things like the center console plastics and the dashboard, even the carpets, the paint outside the car, all of that is now using sustainable materials. So while it doesn't necessarily feel like, you know, you're sitting on the supple hide of a fatted calf, on the bright side, you're not sitting on a fatted calf. This stuff is all, it's all sustainable. So other things that jump out to me, well, first off, there is this terrific center console. So it has the same really nifty cup holders up here that we see in the Kia Telluride. We have a video comparing the Telluride with the Palisade where we go into detail on these cup holders, so you should watch that one. But it's also just a great use of space. Now, so many times you climb into these cars and this space, it just ends up being a little bit of a dead zone. It either isn't quite configured right, or there's a big shift lever in the middle of it, or there's just not enough space for your things. Now, admittedly, this little bin here, this is a little too small to be practical. You can put your keys in there, maybe your wallet. But we do have a wireless phone charger down here. We have the great cup holders I showed you. I love it when you can cover that up. I think that's just makes everything look a lot classier. Speaking of classy, we've got this great ambient lighting here, and it's a 2-color lighting system in the EV9, so you can't see it quite yet, but I'm sure we'll show you some B-roll. There's another color down below. So we've got this blue here, there's a little green down there. It feels almost a little Ninja Turtles-y. And then down here, there's a lot of space. It's wide open. You could put a big purse there. You could put some shopping bags there. You could take the toys from your kids when they're throwing them at each other and put those up there. It's just a really good design and layout here. There's also some features to this that are specifically designed for the kids in the back row. Now this is the GT line. There's also a land trim that's a slightly lower trim that's here as well. When we look at the rear seats, we'll make sure to look at them in that car. Right now, I'm looking ahead and I'm seeing just a huge improvement in terms of tech. Now, Kia and Hyundai and Genesis, they've always had a very full-featured suite of technological stuff, but it was hard to tell what button you were supposed to be hitting every time because they were all pretty small, they were all the same color, they all just kind of looked the same. But now we have a new layout that looks yeah, it looks so sharp, and the icons are all bigger, they're a little more distinct, it's just a little easier to navigate. I also like that it's this one large integrated panel with the two screens, and then in the middle we have this dedicated screen here for the climate controls. Below that, you'll notice the shifter is on the stalk now. That frees up all that space in the center console, and up here we have an available digital rear view mirror. So when you fill up the trunk all the way past, you can't see out the rear window, all you have to do is flip that right there, and you have a digital video feed of the rear view. Really impressive stuff, but as anyone who has ever shopped for a three-row crossover knows, what you're feeling up here is important. But how much space and how much comfort and how much convenience you have back there, I mean, that's second to none. So unfortunately, I have to get out of this seat, and it's incredibly comfortable headrest, and I've got to get in the back. So this one is not the GT line. This is the lower level land trim, and we expect that this will be more of a volume seller. Now, the first thing that jumps out to me is that, well, it's kind of like sitting in a living room. Now, a lot of that comes down to the very comfortable captain's chairs, but also totally flat floor. Tons of space in here. Got a nice map pocket there. Got, again, the nice kind of cloth material here on the door. This is relatively soft. I like that. We've got a sunshade, that's nice. This armrest is very adjustable. We've got USB ports here and here. Love to see those. And I mentioned that the center console has a little trick for the rear seats. So you see, we can slide out this bin. It does feel a little flimsy, but it might be pre-production. It has this lid on it with a textured surface, so I probably wouldn't, put a can of Diet Coke there. You got cup holders anyways, but you can certainly set your phone there. That's not going anywhere. And then you can slide the lid away. There's plenty of space in here for all your things. So I like that. It's a little tricky to get it to slide back in. But that leaves us wondering about the third row seat. So let me open this door, and Kia has included some nice power adjustable seats here. So you press a button up here and that will move the seat forward, give you easy access to the third row. The only problem is, well, it doesn't exactly move with any sort of urgency, does it? Might be faster either getting some manual seats or just crawling in between the captain's chairs. I'd say we're pretty close, so I'll go climb back there and see how my life is. So in the third row, I'll admit, I'm 5'11" and I could use a little extra space for my legs, but you can slide this seat forward a little bit if you need, a little more flexibility, and you're always going to have lots of headroom and lots of shoulder room. It's also pretty well appointed given that this is kind of a mid-level trim. We've got USB ports back here. I've got a couple cup holders. One thing to note is that it's not 3 across in the third row of the Kia EV9. You're always going to have 2 seats back here. Now you can get captain's chairs for the second row, or you can get a 3 across bench. So that's a good option if you really need to maximize the number of people that you're going to be hauling around. Speaking of hauling around, we probably should talk about the powertrain, the expected driving range, and how much horsepower the EV9 is going to make. Before I climb up there, let me just give you a quick overview. We've got 20.2 cubic feet of cargo space behind the third row. If you fold all of these down, you have just under 82 cubic feet. So while this car is technically a little bigger than a Telluride on the outside, it's ever so slightly smaller on the inside. Now I'm getting out of the third row, I'm getting back in the driver's seat. All right, sitting back up front, this time in the Land trim, I am pretty pleased to report that even though it's not the GT line, this still feels pretty equally appointed. I mean, we don't have the ambient lighting. I'm sure there are some other features that aren't here, but overall pretty nice. But that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about driving range and powertrain. So Kia is going to offer the EV9 with a short range battery and a long range battery. They'll probably call it a standard range battery and a long range battery. And they'll have either a rear wheel drive or an all wheel drive architecture. So with the smaller battery and rear wheel drive, almost certainly going to be the least expensive model. You're going to get about 215 horsepower, and it's going to go probably between 225 and 250 miles. That's my estimate. Kia has said that with the larger battery and rear wheel drive, you should be able to do about 300 miles. Now it's roughly a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, so expect about 3 miles per kilowatt hour. That's pretty good, particularly when you consider how large this vehicle is. That GT line over there, when it has the big battery and all-wheel drive, expect about 240 miles. Any other trims with the big battery and all-wheel drive that aren't the GT line, about 250 miles of range. All in all, I think 300 miles in a big family-friendly SUV is what you want, particularly when you're thinking about, it's got 215 horsepower, it's gonna have a lot of torque because it's electric, it'll probably be pretty nice to drive. The GT line with 240 miles, yeah, you're gonna get a lot of performance, but it's, is 240 miles enough for a big road tripping family vehicle? That's gonna be a big question for Kia, so let us know what you think in the comments section below. Does a car like this need 300 at the minimum, or is a 300 mile maximum range good enough? After all, it's the first one. Well, there you have it. This is the all-new 2024 Kia EV9, and I cannot wait to drive it because from a packaging standpoint, it looks like a terrific option for families who want to move away from a gas-powered 3-row crossover to something that is fully electric. Now, there are some questions remaining. First off, what about pricing? Well, Kia hasn't announced pricing yet, but we are expecting it to be probably starting in the $50,000 range. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Now, there is some good news. Kia is investing in North American assembly, so there's gonna be a plant in Georgia that will start churning these out, and there's going to be a battery manufacturing facility also stateside. So eventually it will qualify for a full US federal tax credit. That's great news. Not so great news, early adopters, the first folks to buy these, they're probably not going to get that credit because currently it is manufactured in Korea. We're gonna drive this car, we're gonna give you a full test drive review, but right now I wanna know what you think about the EV9. Is this a true game changer? Is it gonna shake up the segment? And is it going to be as big a hit for Kia as the Telluride was? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching this very long video. We'll see you next time.